Want convenient banking features like mobile check deposit? Whitney Bank's mobile app has you covered. Start by opening your checking account online at HancockWhitney.com. Then download the app to bank anytime, anywhere. Member FDIC.
Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. Additional support comes from Luba Workers' Comp.
From Commander's Palace Restaurant in the Garden District in New Orleans, we're out to lunch with Peter Asciutti. Peter Asciutti is Tulane University's A.B. Freeman School of Business professor and director of the award-winning Birkenroad Reports. It's business, New Orleans style.
Hi, I'm Peter Asciutti. Welcome to Out to Lunch. It's a pretty well-accepted fact that here in New Orleans, we like to talk more than people in most other places. But even in cities where people don't talk to every stranger on the street, there is what you might call a default conversation, the subject that everybody has something to say about. In Los Angeles, people talk about traffic. In London, it's the weather. Here in New Orleans, one of the default conversations is groceries. Almost anybody you meet is able and happy to discuss the boiled shrimp at Rouse's, the catfish at Robert's, and if you get the right person, you can also relive the heyday of Schwegman's. Travel 24 miles across the lake, and you can get into a whole other grocery conversation. This one will include the name Acquistipace. The Acquistipace family has been in the grocery business for 150 years. Yes, 150, starting out in New Orleans and since 1963 in Covington and in Mandeville. If you've never been in an Acquistipace store, it's not just a supermarket. Let's start with the facts. In 2016, they rang up $10 million in alcohol sales, and they have over 600 cheeses. The current co-owner of Acquistipace is Adam Acquistipace. Adam, welcome to Out to Lunch.
Thanks for having me.
Here in New Orleans, we're also big on congregating. We get together at parades, festivals, restaurants, and music clubs. And in the last few years, we've been able to add craft brewery tap rooms to that list. One of the latest additions is Urban South Brewery, which opened in 2016. As well as brewing beer, Urban South bills its tap room as kid-friendly. So if you want to grab a craft beer and let your 8-year-old drive home, Urban South Brewery might be the spot you're looking for. The founder and president of the brewery is Jacob Landry. Jacob, welcome to Out to Lunch.
Hey, thanks for having me, Peter.
Now, Adam, I'll start with you. Acquistapace is a business that's both traditional and modern at the same time. It's traditional in the sense that it's like an old-fashioned general store where the storekeeper's personal taste creates an inventory of quirky stuff. For example, you'll go to a distillery like Jack Daniel's and bring back a single barrel of a blend you like yourself. On the other hand, you have one of only a handful of accredited cheese specialists in the world on your staff, which is the kind of thing you'd expect to hear about in a hipster New York delicatessen rather than a store in Covington, Louisiana. Do you have some sort of thought-through, sophisticated business model that you run Acquistipace by? Are you basing your inventory on market research? Or are you just enjoying yourself and having fun stocking and selling what interests you?
It's a little bit of all of those.
Okay.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of products that we bring in that we find interesting. We need to know what's selling in the market. And in our case, if you mentioned the cheese side. My brother is the cheese buyer.
Oh, okay. I was wondering where you got him.
So my brother is a certified cheese professional, and so when he got his designation, there was about 250 of them in North America. Whoa. So it's like, in the wine world, we call those, master sommeliers, but in the cheese world, it's not as glorious, but they call it cheese professional. He studied in France. And
there must be a French word for that.
It's
something fromage, right?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah. But
Grand fromage.
So the thing is, what we've tried to do is we try to educate ourselves about certain categories. I did the wine and spirit side. And so I carry in our store in Covington, I got about 6,300 different wines on the shelf, and 2,300 different spirits and 9 or so beers. So we stock around 10,000 items just in our wine and spirit side.
You know what I have to ask you about is you've only been in the alcohol side for about 20 years. I mean, was that a big family meeting when that
Yeah,
occurred?
my dad went to California and came back and decided to change some things in our store, but that's not where it really started. So my grandfather, Charles Acquistipace, was one of the original partners in Schwegman's, and he was the head of wine and spirit and beer buying for Schwegman's.
This makes sense because,
Yeah.
you know, Schwegman's, I know you know this, but it was way ahead of its time.
Yes.
I remember first time I went to one of those stores, I was told I could drink a beer while I was shopping. I think I moved here for that reason. It was just terrific. Now, Jacob, you're probably the newest entry into the New Orleans craft beer market. Opening a brewery isn't cheap, and it's not easy to brew good beer, to say nothing of marketing it. When you looked at the New Orleans market before making the commitment on an SBA loan and taking money from friends and family to sink into this, did you think there was a specific hole in the beer market that needed filling, or did you think there's a bigger thirst for craft beer than the existing breweries can satisfy?
I thought there was definitely both. When we started putting the plan together, there was only one craft brewery in New Orleans. Nola Brewery opened, I think they've been going about 8 years, and before that there was nobody since Dixie closed its doors. And so, it was kind of twofold. The people in Louisiana and in New Orleans are evolving pretty quickly to really trade up from the kind of what I consider tasteless macro beers to much better tasting.
And we're a little late to the game, right? I
Yeah,
mean, the
we're
West
absolutely
Coast-
late to the game. I mean, craft beer nationally, you go to a place like Portland, Oregon, and craft beer has 40 to 50% market share.
Whoa.
And in Louisiana, it's about 6%.
And what is that about? What it is nationally, or?
No, nationally, it's about we're right at about 12% in terms of the dollar share of craft beer in the overall beer market.
Because I know the big boys are afraid.
Yeah, well, they're afraid. They're also getting in the game. They're buying up craft breweries, and it's gonna become more competitive because of that.
Jay, why a tap room? That seems like kind of an add-on. How'd you decide to spend the money for that?
Yeah, today, if you're going to open a brewery, that's really critical because, the whole local food movement has grown because people want to feel a connection to the food and to the drink that they're buying. And the tap room is the absolute best way for someone to experience our product because they can come in, they can see the tanks, they can see the stainless against the old brick, and they can taste the widest variety of beer that we make because we do some different takes on our core beers in our tap room that you can't get anywhere else. And so for us, 90% of our volume is through distribution, through stores like Adams, where people are buying beer to take home, or at a bar where they're buying it to drink. But the tap room is a really big part of telling our story.
You know what I loved about your story, Jacob, is that you originally hated beer.
Yeah.
This is an amazing turnaround.
Yeah.
Actually, just the opposite as they would have in AA. But that's just what was going on there? When did you change your mind?
Yeah, well, my dad drank, Milwaukee's Best and Natural Light, and so growing up, I thought it was disgusting. And got the opportunity to go to France for a year in college, and then tasted great European beer, Belgian beer, German beer for the first time, and it really blew my mind. I didn't know beer could taste like that. So that's what really set me on the path to exploring.
Now, Adam, what is it you actually do for most of the day? You can make stuff up if you're trying to get a raise or something.
Might need to. Well, we opened up our new store in Mandeville in November, so I've been spending a lot of time over there, and so I guess I oversee the operations for the stores. It's not a one-man show. I mean, we've got
Here's your brother overlooking the cheese.
My brother spends my brother is he's a commercial contractor. He's a cheese professional. He's a licensed florist. So we do.
Oh,
wow.
wow.
So there's a lot of things that we just try to we learn ourselves and try to figure out how to do. And so, my time is more spent doing general management and data analysis and trying to figure out the system because the system's evolving, and being in the grocery world, the grocery business has changed a lot. I say changed. The competition has changed.
Let's see, how has it changed? You have you've got at the low end, you've got Walmart in the business now. I guess at the high end, you've got Whole Food.
Yeah.
How'd you find your way in?
So what we try to do is we've tried to find niches. So we were always known to be in the meat business, and so we've got real live butchers that cut meat on premise in our Covington location. Our Mandeville location is not a supermarket. We are wine, spirits,
meat
beer,
is dead,
cheese.
but the
Yeah,
guys are
so
alive.
so
That's
in our Covington store, we may have, in between 5 and 9 people back there in the meat department. So we do a lot of business, but we have a really robust meat program. And that business is changing. A lot of things are moving to prepackaged meat, and that's really being pushed hard by the chains, because in the meat, some of the most well-paid and prestigious positions in supermarkets traditionally were the butchers. So the chains had been moving away from that into prepackaged products, and so that will continue to be a niche. And as it becomes more and more difficult for retailers and grocery stores to cut do whole cuts into
So in the
to
back,
grind meat.
the back of the store, it looks like Rocky, and
It is. Well,
That's
there's no more hanging beef. So
Okay,
beef
all right.
comes in boxed up, and most of it's controlled by a few companies. And as that stuff comes in, we'll break it apart, and we'll process it. And but the thing is for us, one of our niches is that we have great prices because we have a good efficient program. And that you got to have ground meat. So that's the thing. It's the grain. It's having good, fresh ground meat all the time.
And Jacob, what about you on your side? Are you the brewer? Or are you the business guy? Or
I'm not the brewer. I will not take credit for that. I was a home brewer, and I made some very mediocre beer. And so I knew right off the bat we had to get someone in there who knew what he was doing. There's really 3 of us who formed the core founding team, and I did all the initial groundwork and still do most of sort of the business side and the finance of it. But Kyle Hewling is another critical part of the team, and he worked for a distributor for 10 years, so he's got some great market experience and does a lot of our marketing and our market strategy. And then Wes Ozier's our brewmaster, and he's the guy with all the real experience brewing, and he knows what he's doing back there. So I don't want to take any credit from either of those guys.
You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Peter Raschuti. I'm talking with craft beer brewer Jacob Landry from Urban South Brewery and Adam Acquistipace from Acquistipace's grocery stores in Mandeville and Covington. First of all, as a kid, Adam, did you work in the stores?
I've always worked in the store. Yeah,
bet.
we grew up in there, and we started bagging groceries and running a checkout, and then moving into pretty much worked in all aspects of the store. So when you grow up in it, it's just what you.
And you always knew at some point you
It's
were.
just what you do. Well, I didn't know that I was going to be in.
No?
I guess I grew up in the grocery business, but I came this close to changing my major to geology as a freshman at LSU.
And what was it?
And
Your major?
It was general business.
Okay, so that.
And I
worked out.
remember talking to my dad and telling him that I think I'm going to change it to geology. And he was pretty supportive.
Oh, really?
And,
I thought this was going to go the other way.
No, well, this is the thing, and this is what has really helped myself and my brother is, my dad has, he grew up in a grocery store, like literally grew up in the grocery store as well, and my grandparents opened up in Covington in '63, and so he looked at us as, education was the key to understanding and to be able to growth, and we were never forced into the store. Well, as long as he was paying for us to do something, then you worked at the store.
Hey, Adam, when were you in New Orleans? Is that how some people would remember you? Where was that store?
So my grandmother was born on top of a grocery store on Piney and Burgundy
Enter
Streets.
music. That's so great.
Yeah, on Piney and Burgundy Streets, and in the Bywater, and so. They lived upstairs. It wasn't called Acquistipace's, and so my grandmother was a Schwegman. So her name.
Wow, this is a great story.
So her name was Odile Schwegman, and so her brother was John Schwegman, and so their mother died when they were young, and so she took care of the house upstairs, and her brothers ran the grocery store downstairs.
Now, Jake, I got to ask you. I assume in college, like so many men, were a beer major. Is that?
After that France experience, I did dabble a little bit in beer at LSU.
What was your major? What were you planning to do?
I studied animal science and mass communication, so I planned to
I'm trying to think the
to
hybrid.
teach chickens to talk. Is essentially what I was going for. But
That was so.
Yeah.
If you came so close too, I really.
I
'cause
tried.
I remember
but
Chicken Run, the movie, and I thought
couldn't
that.
make a career out of it, as much as I tried.
Okay. Jacob, Adam, this is the part of the show we call your brother-in-law. You've got to the end of a long day, and you're about to finally take it easy when the phone rings. It's your brother-in-law. Normally, he only calls when he's having a crawfish boil and wants you to bring some drinks. But this time, the conversation's a little different. Jacob, your brother-in-law has a no-brainer idea for making you the biggest craft brewery in America. There's nobody who likes to drink beer more than frat boys. There's plenty of them, and let's face it, they've got plenty of money. If you have a specialty beer with a fraternity label, these guys would buy as many kegs as you could make. He doesn't know why nobody's already doing it, but if you could bankroll him, he's prepared to quit looking for a real job right now and go out on the road selling this idea to frat boys. What do you say? Is this a great beer marketing idea or what?
Hey, I'm willing to give anything a try. We actually have done some private label stuff for some Mardi Gras crews, and so I think it's an idea worth giving a shot. It's pretty low investment to try it out.
We've had the guy on the show from Chapter Spot that organized all of
Yeah.
fraternities. You could come in right there. That'd be terrific. Adam, your brother-in-law has a great idea for partnering up with somebody like Jacob Landry from Urban South Brewery, as well as traveling all over to bring back specialty drinks to your store. What if Acquistipace had its own brewery? All you have to do is put up a new building on site and get Jacob to move his operation there. A combined brewery, tap room, where people can meet and socialize and get their groceries. Could it get any more New Orleans? What do you think? Is your brother-in-law onto something?
Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm game.
I mean, it's a brilliant, really, it is a brilliant idea.
But
it's illegal. But
Oh,
it'll be
yeah.
brilliant,
So why is it illegal?
Well, the liquor laws are very interesting, and
We're just gonna leave it at that.
well, so after Prohibition, the states got to control with the type of laws that they have. So I cannot be, since I have a retail license, I cannot be a manufacturer or distributor. by law.
Whereas Jacob can be a manufacturer and,
But not
But he can't
distributor
He can't be a distributor or a retailer.
or a retailer.
but he can be what the tap room is.
I can only sell what I make on site.
Wow.
So he has to sell his beer by law to somebody else, and I have to buy it from that person, and that person owns his brand.
But I like the way you made the snap decision right off the bat. Let's just do it.
We do it
Is
tomorrow.
that kind of your management style?
It depends. It depends.
It does exist though. There's a Whole Foods in Houston with a brewery on site.
Yep.
Because what's unique about the alcohol laws, it's one of the few areas of commerce where the federal government has said, you know what, I don't really want much to do with this. You guys decide
So
how
it's
to
state law?
regulate it. So it's every
State
state
laws.
has a different alcohol law.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very challenging,
It's
especially
confusing, it's
especially to figure out
challenging.
business models, because
Yeah.
so as I travel around and go to different markets, I look and try to see what type of you never have to invent the wheel because someone else has already done some version of it. So as I travel around, I look at different places and different people doing on the retail side and try to get ideas. The dynamic of each state is different, so I have to understand what the dynamics of the liquor laws are, because there's a lot of models that don't work here because there's laws that prevent certain amounts of competition. But on the flip side, Louisiana is a very competitive market on the retail side. So I mean, you can buy what makes Louisiana unique is you can buy liquor, wine, and beer just about anywhere.
Yes.
And there's no limits on the amount of liquor licenses there are, which is quite unique because a lot of markets around the country have caps on licenses. Like you can't just go open up a wine shop in Florida. You just can't do it. You got to buy. You either have to buy someone's license, or it goes to a lottery, because they ration the licenses.
Is that what's made our state so strong?
It may be. It's made us more thirsty. But to figure out, so you look and you see some of these big box models in some of these other markets, and you can only bring in certain aspects of those businesses, because you have to think that in certain markets, like in Texas, there's a Class B license. So if you're a bar or restaurant, you have to go buy it from a Class B license. You can't even buy it from the distributor. So it's technically 4 tiers. So the retailer has a much stronger lobby in a state like Texas.
I will tell you, your beer lobby is pretty strong. I worked at the Capitol, and they give the
That's
greatest
not,
parties.
well, it's not my beer lobby.
Okay, yeah, it's not your beer. It's Jacob's beer
No, it's
lobby.
not mine.
No,
his,
it's not
it's
yours
not his
either.
either.
It's the distributor's beer lobby.
Okay. I was just getting free beer. I really did not look into
Yeah.
detail how that worked.
I approached one of my legislators a few years ago about changing the law, and he said, look,
Good luck.
get the beer league on board. That's what the distributor lobby's called. They throw every party in Baton Rouge, and they never ask for anything. And so that's the key to making the law more progressive is get the beer lobby.
Now, Jacob, I got to ask you this: if it's so easy to open, beer distribution facilities, how do you market? I mean, it's not like how could you get them all?
So as far as marketing our brand, I mean, it's all done organically. We started with not nearly enough money to really open the way we did, and it's a hustle. And thankfully, the consumer that's buying craft beer is really open to that. So we reach them primarily through social media, through some direct newsletter contact, but we don't pay for any advertising, and we really can't at this point. And thankfully, that's worked for us.
Well, I personally I'm going to be telling everybody about Holy Roller
Yeah.
beer. So on the one hand, there's nothing more basic and simple than food and drink. On the other hand, as humans and New Orleanians, humans especially, we seem to have an unlimited capacity for coming up with different ways of buying food and consuming drinks. Adam, you're part of the oldest food and drink purveyors in New Orleans and the North Shore. Jacob, you're one of the newest drink options in town. You're both part of a long tradition, and you're both making unique contributions to it. It's been great to meet you, and thank you both for taking the time to join me today on Out to Lunch.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
My guests on Out to Lunch today have been Adam Acquistapace, the co-owner of Acquistipaces, and Jacob Landry, founder and president of Urban South Brewery. You can find out more about Adam's stores and Jacob's beers by following the links on our websites, itsneworleans.com and wwno.org. Our show is recorded live over lunch at Commander's Palace in New Orleans. Commander's Palace serves lunch Monday through Friday, jazz brunch on Saturday and Sunday with live music, and dinner 7 nights a week. The producer of our show is Grant Morris. Our technical producer is Eric Merle, and our researcher is Matthew Ellefson. Mitchell Foreman wrote and performs all the music in Out to Lunch. Mitch's music is available wherever great jazz is sold, streamed, or stolen, and at mitchellforeman.com. You can get this show as a podcast. You can listen to past shows. You can keep up with us on all kinds of social media by going to our websites, wwno.org and itsneworleans.com. If you want to know what we look like, as well as some pictures of beer, that's going to be great. You can find photos from this show on our website and Facebook page. These photos were taken today by Aliison Moon. Out to Lunch is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsneworleans.com and WWNO 89.9 FM. I'm Peter Raschuti. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to meeting you again next week around the table here at Commander's Palace for more business, New Orleans style, on Out to Lunch.
Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. Additional support comes from Luba Workers' Comp.
Want convenient banking features like mobile check deposit? Whitney Bank's mobile app has you covered. Start by opening your checking account online at HancockWhitney.com. Then download the app to bank anytime, anywhere. Member FDIC.